Okay, today I'm doing a tutorial on how to sculpt some fabric. So this funerary walker that is part of the Lost Legion Azteca that I'm developing, it is primarily the features is kind of like an appreciation for textiles, and I wanted to really have some nice drapery over these these priestess forms. So I use Blender to and the cloth simulation in Blender to create these the drapery in this miniature. So this was a request, and so I don't. This is my first video tutorial that I'm doing. So bear with me. I'm using Blender. Blender is free to download. So that would be the first step. The next step would be to open the software and have a form ready that you want to drape cloth over. And so with the form selected, down in this tab, this is the physics tab, you're going to assign it a collision. So that means whatever physics that you run, this is something that whatever physics, in this case the cloth, is going to collide with. And you're good. I have the floor as well. That's how you get this little detail here. This is just a mesh. We're going to add one in a second, and you're also going to turn on the collision for that. So here we're going to add mesh in this drop down menu. We're just going to add a plane. A plane is just a flat piece of square geometry. We're going to hover it over the object that we want to collide with. We're going to move it so the center, which is the origin of the geometry, which is kind of annotated with that yellow dot, is going to be over the center of the object that you want to collide with. So in this case, it's kind of this priestess form that I sculpted. We're going to go into, with the plane selected, we're going to go to edit mode. I hit tab. It might be different depending on what operating system that you're using. The edit mode, alternatively, you could go to this drop down menu, click edit, and now you're in edit mode. You could search for subdivide, and I'm going to do hit that here. So I'm applying subdivisions. I think I applied about 4 or 5. With that, we're going to toggle out of edit mode, assign in this with the physics. We're going to assign it to be a cloth, and then we're going to scroll down to the animate, and now we're going to animate it. And there you have it. With the default settings, you have a you have a piece of cloth that's draping over the form. So with that, you could adjust. And so how do we get it to kind of behave more like this? Well, we just have to assign more geometry to it. So here, it's going to fold relative to how much geometry is assigned to it. And keep in mind, the more geometry that you, and the more subdivisions that the piece of cloth has, the more calculations, and the more, you could see my computer is slowing down, the more time it will need, and the more memory it will use to make those calculations. Right now I probably have a little bit too much geometry. Maybe subdivide that 5 or 6 times. And this blue bar kind of represents the how it's run the calculations. So you could see it's going to end at 300. I think the default for that is 250, which is perfectly fine. You could also pause it, and then you're going to reset it back into that position. Clicking the this slider, you could slide it into the position because it's already been calculated when we ran the animation. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to capture that, I'm going to go to the modifiers tab, and I'm going to hit apply. So now this is frozen. no matter if I move the slider, this is now a piece of geometry that holds this shape. So now this is where I would recommend to smooth out the geometry. We're going to generate a subdivision, and there you have it. We have a nice kind of beautiful piece of cloth that's ready. I wouldn't say this is ready for 3D printing. I'll go ahead and I'll explain how to prepare it for 3D printing now. With this subdivided, I would actually then, you're going to see that this cloth is self-intersecting. So I'm going to delete it. Actually, I'll just Control Z. So now I've undone a lot of the actions, and now it's going to have to recalculate. I've undone the actions for the benefit of the learning tutorial. So this piece of cloth, to actually edit the properties, I would have to go back in the physics tab. Make sure that object collisions is turned on. I think default, you have to make sure that self collision is turned on as well. So I'm going to reset back to the first frame and run the simulation again. With self collisions on, that's telling the simulation that I want the piece of cloth to acknowledge itself. So we could get nice folds here in this, where the cloth, as it's running down, it's meeting itself. And you can see that the results there. So I'm pretty happy with that. So you don't need to run the whole simulation. I'm pretty happy with how it's falling and draping on the form. So I'm going to capture it here, clicking on the modifiers, going to apply. Now to add more geometry to it, to make it more smooth, I'm going to add subdivisions. Pretty happy with that. And here, this is where I'm going to do a little bit of sculpting. So I'm going to toggle into sculpt. The default I have is J on the keyboard. And I'm just going to just correct a little bit. I'm actually using, I'm smoothing out the form a little bit. This is just going to clean up some of the geometry where it's kind of tightened up a little too much on the form. So you might say, oh, you might not notice it here, but we want to avoid sharp folds in geometry, with the consideration that this is going to be a miniature for 3D printing. Because those tight folds are going to trap resin when we clean it. So we want to have, just clean it up a little bit. I'm increasing the strength of it to toggle the settings for the sculpting brush. Just you could toggle this sidebar menu, go up to tool. Now we're going to now you can see the effect of it. So this kind of like this is actually the you can see that these portions are coming through. So I'm just gonna inflate it a little bit. We don't want the base of the base that this is draping over coming through right now. So that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. To prepare it properly for 3D printing, we're going to give it some thickness, and this is the default is this. This is going to change depending on how what your units are. So just use it to your liking. and just kind of visually read it. And so you could see here, now it has some proper thickness. I'm going to toggle this modifier on and off so you could see that we're giving this piece of geometry some thickness. So you don't want to go negative, you want to go positive, because it's calculating. Actually, what was the default? Let's do it again. Solidify. All right. Yeah, we want to stay positive. Stay positive. But you can see we have some intersecting. We're going to just clean that up really quickly. I'm using the smooth tool to do that. And when you're calculating for, you can see this side. This side looks pretty good. This might be too thick. There we go. I think the defaults for my miniature worked just perfect. Worked perfectly. Alternatively, if you want to avoid kind of some of that self-intersecting, you could remesh it. And so remesh is just kind of recalculating. I'm going to have to do it before the solidify. So you could just toggle and move it up. Toggle to smooth, and you can see it's rebuilding the geometry. So it's kind of like a true enclosed form. And you could see that, in some cases that the form is a little not built properly. This is just, but it's closing it out here. You could say, hey, I want those kinds of effects. It's kind of cool. It's a little raggedy. But it's not very optimal for 3D printing because you could see this piece is just kind of floating here. We don't really want that when we are 3D printing. That could potentially fall off in the print bed and start floating in the vat, which is what you don't want. Or you could just leave it like here, but you have to make sure that no resin's going to get trapped up here. This could be done by manipulating this form, just kind of blowing it out so that it's going to be true and follow the form of now the piece of cloth that you have. Alternatively, you could start sculpting your cloth. So it's, I like to sculpt. I know a lot of people may not be comfortable with sculpting. I like to sculpt because, I think it's, I ran the simulator. I got it 90% there. And now these final touches, I'm using the sculpting tool to get the piece of cloth to kind of behave how I intended. Here I'm just using this, I'm just toggling, holding shift, and that's going to kind of run the smooth tool by default. And it's like that for all the sculpting tools, or at least the ones I use. So there you have it, a nice kind of pretty form. You could kind of correct a lot of it as in the simulation by playing around with the geometry, but it's almost ready for pretty much 3D printing. And yeah, that's how, hope that was helpful. That's how I generated this piece of cloth. So you could 3D print it. Otherwise, you have a pretty amazing reference if you're going to sculpt it by hand. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the little tutorial. I'm going to end it now. So reach out to me on Instagram if you have any questions. Don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh. Ah. No. All right, let's get out of here. We're abort. Reach out if you have any questions on Instagram, Lord of Skulls, and yeah, Lord of Skulls on Instagram is the best way to reach out. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get out of here.